Can Zhen Huan, blessed with both beauty and talent, truly outshine all in the imperial harem and enjoy everlasting favor? Xianling, following the source of the sound, saw imperial consort Hua with her brows deeply furrowed, tears shimmering in her eyes, looking overwhelmed with emotion. Known for her pride as the #1 consort in the harem, she rarely showed vulnerability in public. Her current state, teary like pear blossoms in the rain, evoking a springtime sadness, was indeed pitiable. I couldn't help but smile inwardly at the unfolding scene. The Empress showed a hint of displeasure and asked, "Why is Consort Hua crying? Is there something troubling you?" Imperial Consort Hua quickly rose and prostrated herself, saying, "I am terrified, momentarily losing my composure and disturbing the Emperor and Empress's refined tastes. I beg for your forgiveness." Xianling calmly inquired, "Consort Hua, speak freely if you feel wronged." The Empress glanced at Xianling but remained silent. Consort Hua, struggling to hold back her tears, claimed, "I bear no grievances. It was merely the sight of concubine Zhen's surprise swan dance that touched me deeply, leading to my indiscretion." Xianling, intrigued, pointed out, "You had not entered the palace when the late Empress performed the surprise swan dance. What emotions could it possibly stir in you?" Consort Hua replied, bowing again, "I have been reflecting on a poem about Consort Mei's Eastern Pavilion from the Tang Dynasty, found in the palace archives. The surprise swan dance originated with Consort Mei during her favored times. The Eastern Pavilion poem was written during her seclusion in the Shangyang Palace. Today's dance reminded me of the poem, and I felt a deep sympathy for Consort Mei." Xianling, amused, remarked, "You've never shown interest in poetry. It's surprising to see you so engaged now." Consort Hua looked at Xianling and said, "I am ignorant, but I've heard that poetry can soothe the mind and refine one's character. Knowing my lack of virtue and talent, if I do not cultivate myself, I would be unworthy to serve the Emperor. Since you are so moved by the Eastern Pavilion poem, can you recite it for us?" Consort Hua agreed and began reciting with tears, but her voice choked with emotion as she reached the lines expressing deep yearning and sadness, making it difficult for her to continue. Her sorrowful demeanor moved all who heard her. Unable to hold back any longer, Rongnan Wang stood and said, "Consort Hua's matters are the Emperor's private affairs, and it's not my place to comment. However, Consort Hua has served the Emperor for many years without major faults. If there have been any shortcomings in her service, I hope the Emperor will consider her long service and forgive her." Xianling couldn't help but sigh at Consort Hua's plight and after a moment of thought said, "Rise. The place you currently reside is too secluded. Move to Shende Hall, which is closer to me." Consort Hua's face lit up with gratitude, and she tearfully thanked the Emperor for his grace. As I gently placed a slice of lotus root into my mouth, maintaining a composed smile, the resurgence of Imperial Consort Hua was something I had anticipated, though its swiftness caught me off guard. Observing the Empress's slightly pale demeanor beside Xianling, the current situation became evident. With Rongnan Wang's support and her father's military service, it seemed likely that Imperial Consort Hua would soon regain significant influence over the inner palace, perhaps even more than before. These developments foretold more challenging times ahead. My thoughts drifted to the previous night's visit to the Shuilu Nanshuan Hall. Before I could enter, Feng Ruo stopped me, saying, "Several high officials from the inner cabinet have arrived. Please wait in the side hall for a moment." The quiet of the night, coupled with the side hall's proximity to the main hall, allowed fragments of conversation to drift my way with the night breeze. Now that the court is engaged in military action in the southwest, with Imperial Consort Hua's father, Murongyan, serving under Rongnan Wang, we urge His Majesty to reconsider. Even if Imperial Consort Hua has significant faults, the court is in dire need of personnel at this time, and we must act pragmatically. The mention of acting pragmatically brought a wry smile to my face. The campaign in the southwest was proving arduous with no end in sight. Victory would undoubtedly lead to significant rewards, likely further empowering Imperial Consort Hua upon their triumphant return. However, when I entered the hall, the officials had already dispersed. The Emperor lay alone, eyes closed in repose. He didn't open his eyes at my entrance, merely requesting, "My head aches severely. Help me ease it." Complying, the hall's tranquility enveloped us, scented with jasmine and a hint of the cooling bitterness of menthol oil, which I knew Xianling used during times of headache and frustration. With gentle movements, I softly inquired, "Is something troubling your majesty?" Xianling responded, Huan, you're always so perceptive. Try to guess what troubles me." "The affairs of the court naturally weigh on the emperor's mind," I ventured. "You're right," Xianling acknowledged. "The harem too is part of the empire, and it concerns me as well." His hints were clear, and perhaps he hoped I would voice the advice he sought. The cool breeze from the lake carried the chorus of frogs, stirring the sheer fabrics of our attire. I ventured, "Managing the harem alone must be taxing for the empress. She could use some assistance." "And what are your thoughts?" he probed. "Imperial consort Hua has managed the harem for many years and could support the empress. Moreover," I paused, "the past issues largely stem from consort Li's actions, not necessarily imperial consort Hua's. If she is neglected too long for this, it might cause discontent. Besides, your majesty's concerns about her autonomy have been addressed. I believe she has learned her lesson." Xianling remained silent for a while before drawing me close. "Consort Hua's reinstatement might cause you some discomfort, but rest assured I will protect you." Leaning against Xianling, I reassured, "For the emperor, no sacrifice is too great on my part. It's all part of a grand play we're all actors in. The empress, perhaps, has more to ponder today than Meizhuang or I." As the feast concluded and the guests dispersed, I passed by Chao Jieyu and whispered, "Sister, was the note about the surprise swan dance always in your sleeve? It seems today's performance was destined by you. You've been very considerate." Chao Jieyu, with a hand on her maid, replied composedly, "I'm not sure what you mean, dear sister." I looked up at the clear blue sky. "Your wisdom surely grasps that without the surprise swan dance, there'd be no Eastern Pavilion poem. Imperial consort Hua rarely indulges in poetry. It's curious she's taken an interest now." Consort Mei's emotion-laden Eastern Pavilion didn't regain Emperor Xuanzong's favor, but it has moved the emperor today. Surely, Consort Mei would appreciate your efforts from beyond. Chao Jieyu smiled non-committally. "Whatever you say, dear sister. I'm not articulate enough to argue. Perhaps you'll have time to care for Shenronghua's pregnancy, which truly concerns the emperor."
Follow us to avoid getting lost and enjoy endless exciting stories. For more content, please go to the Story Wall homepage to view more exciting novels.